The corpse on the table is fresher than any you have ever seen. No grave dirt beneath the nails, no smell of turned earth. And as the sheet folds back, you realize you know this face. October 1828. Dr. Robert Knox's Anatomy Theatre, Surgeon Square, Edinburgh. The best supplied dissection rooms in the city, and you are one of nearly 500 students who pay to stand in them. Knox is the reason you're here, not the university. Knox, the most popular lecturer in Edinburgh, and by some distance the most theatrical. He performs anatomy the way other men perform Shakespeare, and the house is always full. You came from a farm, or a manse, or a merchant's front room, like every other coat in this hall, sent at your family's expense to learn a trade that requires, before anything else, a body to practice on. There is a rule here nobody ever states out loud, because it never needs to be. You learnt it in your first week, the way you learn where the exits are. Never ask where the subjects come from. The school has assistants for that. Young men not much older than you who receive deliveries after dark and never discuss them by daylight. Months ago, in this same room, a woman lay on that table. Mary Patterson. 24 years old and so recently alive that half the hall recognized her from the street outside. Nobody asked how a woman that fresh had come to be for sale. Instead, artists were sent for. Her body was kept in whiskey so the sketches could take their time. You told yourself it was a single, strange case. An exception. The usual supply is older, quieter, less like looking in a mirror. You have believed that for months. Tonight the candle in this hall is about to teach you otherwise. Today's subject arrives the way they always do. No name given, no questions asked. The porters setting the covered table in its place before the lecture begins. Founded unexpectedly by Christian Condener. I'm Arthur. You didn't see him carried in. You never do. By the time the doors open to students, the sheet is already down. Knox begins the way he always begins. Brisk, precise, already talking before the room has fully quieted. And then the sheet comes back. And for one full second, nobody in the hall makes a sound. It's Jamie, Eindel Invest and one from the New Mankingham at the end, artlessly demanded. Jamie. It's Jamie. James Wilson. Daft Jamie, half of Edinburgh calls him, the harmless, grinning fixture of the Grassmarket that every person in this room has passed 100 times. He was seen alive 4 days ago. Walking, laughing, exactly as he always walks and laughs. And he is on this table. A murmur runs the benches. Low, disbelieving, the sound 500 people make when they all reach for the same impossible thought at once. Knox looks up, and Knox says, flatly, that the murmur is mistaken. This is not Jamie. He says it the way he says everything, with total, unhurried authority. And the hall, which pays him to be right about bodies, wants very badly to believe him. Then he gives the instruction that will outlive him. Begin with the head. And the feet, the face that everyone knows. The malformed feet that mark him surer than any name. Cut away first, before a single other structure is touched. You watch the proof of what this is get removed from the table before the lesson even properly starts. You think of Mary Patterson again, and understand for the first time that she was never the exception. She was the first time you happened to notice. You could say something. Your hand is even resting on a pencil, over a page you have stopped writing on. You look at the student beside you. He is looking at his own hands. Nobody in this hall is looking at Knox, and nobody is looking at each other, either. Here is the arithmetic you do instead, in about the time it takes to draw one breath. Your father sold 2 fields for this education, 3 more years of fees, of lodging, of borrowed books, stand between you and a surgeon's plate on a door somewhere. All of it built on this room, and what this room is fed. The dissection continues. Careful hands, murmured Latin, the ordinary rhythm of a Tuesday lecture, resuming around a fact nobody present will name out loud. Nobody walks out, nobody goes to a magistrate. In an hour, most of the hall will be taking notes again, as if nothing at all occurred. Outside, Surgeons' Square looks exactly as it did this morning. One lamp still burning over the door. Nothing about the building admits to what it just proved true. You tell yourself the arithmetic again on the walk home, because it is easier than the alternative. You did not kill anyone. You only didn't look. That is the trade this whole institution runs on. And you have just learned you are fully capable of paying your share of it. It gets easier after today. That is the part nobody warns you about. Not the horror, but how quickly the silence becomes just another thing you know how to do. The theatre empties at dusk the way it always does. Coats gathered, candles guttering, young men filing into the dark in ordinary, unremarkable silence. Somewhere in this crowd of borrowed books and paid for silence, a version of you is already rehearsing how this will sound years from now, if anyone ever asks. Nobody ever does. The supply that fed this room did not start with Knox, and it will not end with him. Somewhere across town tonight, two men are learning the same lesson you just learned from the other side of the transaction. They found this door themselves 11 months ago, with a dead lodger and a debt of £4. You were in this theatre the week it happened, and never once thought to ask why the supply had suddenly improved. What you don't know, what nobody in this hall knows yet, is that the two men who found that door have stopped waiting for lodgers to die of natural causes. 16 people are already gone by counting no one in this room has done. You have watched 3 of them cross this table without recognizing what you were looking at. Jamie is the third face you have known personally. He will not be the last. Eintame, Knox's hands do not pause. They never do. Whatever he knows, or lets himself not know, moves at exactly the same unhurried pace it always has. And you go back to your notes, because that is what the fee bought, and that is what silence costs, and both prices came due in the same room on the same afternoon. Hunter, Ernia and Liam, you chose not to look. 3 days from now, on the morning after Halloween, a lodger's wife named Anne Gray will lift a pile of straw off a bed in the West Port, and unlike every hall full of paying students in this city, unlike Knox, unlike you, she will look. She will look.